here in the Pursuit of Purpose studios. I'm Rod.
I'm Chuck.
And today we're bringing you another follow-up live show about a series that we've been doing. Typically, we've been doing this series on Tuesdays at 10 o'clock. But today, we made an exception because yesterday we had a live interview, as some of you may have caught. We had a very unique guest that we'd never hosted anyone like that on our show. And it was a great conversation. So if you missed it, make sure you check the recordings on YouTube and other podcast platforms so that you can see and understand what we had going on there. But today we're going to keep going in our series about Gen Z and the younger generations and their ambition or lack of ambition. And today we're going to talk about it from the perspective of the culture and psychology that goes along with this concept. Right. And for those of you joining us live, we are available on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, X, and TikTok. And if you'd like to call in and be a part of our live show, live on the air, go ahead and call in at 409-284-1540. Make sure you let your voice be heard, let your opinion be known, and join the conversation. We don't ever want there to be anything holding you back.
Right. Speaking of culture, we want this to be a culture of participation because we're going to talk about a lot of these kind of topics, and we have a few more left on this subject of this cultural trend among our adolescents or young adults. And it's only by honesty that many of you out there, if you don't have a direct connection to someone in your home, you have an indirect connection to someone that you know who is dealing with this very thing. And we may not have answers, but we do have a platform for dialogue that maybe together as a more parental adult community, we can come up with some kind of response. And because that's the only way that this is going to get solved. It's the only way we're going to stop a trend and start retrending. And it's not because we're angry at Jen, whatever letter we're in right now.
Right.
And we're not angry at them. We're more kind of concerned for them because that's kind of our adult parental nature is to say, if we're trending in what seems to be a negative direction, let's see if we can't influence as many as we can and try to turn this thing around a little bit. So, but it starts by understanding a little bit more about what the problem is and how the problem became, and then we can get to what to do to respond to it.
Exactly. So, you and I are both dads. How old are your kids?
My youngest is 29 and up.
Okay. Yeah. So you're on the higher end of the spectrum. I'm a step below you.
That's step.
In the chronological parenting graph.
Right.
So our oldest would be 28.
Yes.
And then we have one, below that and all the way down to 7. So we've got this huge age variable that we're covering.
You have Gen letters in your
family. Exactly. We've got it all. So the topic we've been talking about, and I said it in the intro, but in case you missed it, we're talking about the lack of ambition.
Yes.
Or the apparent lack of ambition in younger generations. And we, as a dad, I grew up in the 80s and early 90s. And man, things were just so different. So different. We, as a kid, we were told, get out of the house.
Yes.
Get out of the house until, the porch light's on. Get out of the house until you hear me call your name, or be back at this time or whatever.
Right.
But there was never a time where we felt like we were entitled to entertainment.
Right.
Ever.
Right. I remember I had a watch. It was kind of it was like a little Timex, and I mean, not a high-end watch by any means, but it just fit my wrist. And I remember my parents, almost like I'm talking, I maybe was a early teen, 12, 13, had a bicycle and a bunch of friends. And they looked at the watch and they go, you know how to tell time, right? I'm like, yes, sir. When the hands say this o'clock, you be at the house. And I'm telling you, that was not early. That was like 9 something. I mean, but after that, it was kind of on our own. If we're thirsty, you drive by your house or somebody else's and turn on the water hose and keep going.
And if you're joining us live, I'm about to ask a question, but I would really appreciate it. We would appreciate it. Share this show with your friends. We want to expand the reach of this conversation because we want to know, how does everybody else feel? Are we on an island here with what we're dealing with, or is it, across the board, a common thing?
Yeah. Are you seeing the same things? And just now, honestly, I'm a little bit biased in my observations because other than what's happened in my home and a few other homes, it's what comes in my office. And so maybe I'm getting a biased perception. And I kind of don't think so. I kind of think it really is. I don't want to call it an epidemic, but we can call it an epidemic just for dramatic purposes on a show. But it sure seems to be.
Yeah.
And back to those childhoods, I was more of a 70s, 80s kid. And there was I don't want you to say kind of a percentage of kind of fending for ourselves. We had to tell time. I didn't have a phone that somebody could call me and go, "Where are you?" I had to know where I was at all time.
Man, I can tell you this. You said it was a percentage or whatever, fending for yourself. There were times that I'd go out into the neighborhood, whatever neighborhood we lived in at the time, and I might get in a fight down the road, and my mama didn't know about it until I got home and told her.
Right.
Yeah, I was out there fending for myself. Or me and the little neighborhood kids decided to do something mischievous, and we just did it. Like there was nobody looking over, and
did it.
We. Forgive me for all of you out there that have kids that might be hearing this at one point in time or another. But I mean, we went into abandoned houses.
That's the word. I was going to say that.
We found. Okay, I'm about to expose myself here a little bit about my childhood behavior. But when I was in the third grade, third grade, fourth grade, we lived in an area where we were absolutely fending for ourselves. Yeah. We were in an urban environment. Mm-hmm. And there were abandoned houses, and me and the kids in the neighborhood, we would go into these abandoned houses and find mattresses. We'd drag them out of the house and jump off the roof of the house and land on the mattresses. Yeah. So you talk about, fending for yourself, learning how to survive. We were testing the limits,
learning how to roll, man.
Yes.
We literally used to play Stuntman.
Yeah, we lived as a
played the game Stuntman, and the purpose of the game was to up your game. Well, if you can do that, I can do this. And to think that my joints are still intact, most of my fingers are fairly straight. I mean,
we can walk.
We can
get upstairs.
Yes, I didn't know I could land so well.
So what I find fascinating is, we went through all this. And those creative adventures and misadventures, or whatever you want to call it, those lended to us becoming driven.
Yes.
They helped and fostered in us a spirit of creation, invention, resourcefulness.
Mm-hmm. If you will, to use one of our words today, a culture. And I'm just curious out there for those of you who are near our age range with kids that are, teen, preteen, and up. What are you seeing? Mm-hmm. And, I've done some research, a little bit of studies on this, and, are you seeing this in your kids? Do they have, what are we doing to foster creativity? Like when we give our kids these phones, and I'm guilty, I'm not preaching, but we give our kids these phones and we let them, we kind of turn them loose with it. It takes away that drive, that ambition to create for themselves because they get entertained. Yes.
And it seems to me like this is creating a culture of entitlement, or enhancing that culture of entitlement by saying, I'm owed entertainment.
Yeah.
All I need to do is exist, and you have to entertain me.
Isn't that the word, entitlement? I know that you used it. So yeah, I'm owed this. I can remember taking my being with some of the youngers in our family, and we would show up at an older person's house, maybe our aunt or grandmother, and I can hear them talking to their parent going, what's the Wi-Fi password? And they're like, sweetie, I don't think Aunt so-and-so has Wi-Fi. Like, really? And they were just shocked that they couldn't use their device. Like, no, you can find something else to do. And, if left to themselves, and I've watched this happen, like y'all go in the office over there or that spare bedroom and you go find something, they'll make up games. Next thing you know, you listen to the door, they're making up word games, or they find a deck of cards or something, and they don't even know what they're playing, but they're playing some kind of card, let's see who can get the picture card, whatever. But that was an eye opener to that environment of a lack of creativity.
Right.
But that's what we would do. We would get on our bikes with nothing, and then we would find something to do. That's creativity.
Well, and, there's a lot of complaints from kids about boredom, right?
Right.
And as parents, I know that personally we have taken it upon ourselves to feel like it's our problem to solve when they are bored.
Yeah.
Or as teachers in school, kids talk about being bored in the classroom and things like that. The fascinating thing and the truth about that is, and this is a truth, you research it on your own, whatever. Boredom's healthy.
Yes.
Boredom prompts a person, whether it be a child or an adult, to create, to pursue learning, to grow in their understanding of both themselves and their surroundings.
Yes.
Boredom is the catalyst for creativity, ambition, drive, and purpose.
Yes.
So boredom is, while it may seem, as a negative, it's not. Boredom is your kid's friend.
Correct.
Let them be bored.
Yeah, that's just a phase of creativity. Now you're going to go fill that gap. And so boredom is its own version of like a psychological gap. Okay, well then let's go fill it with something. And so and I think that's what we've done in too many situations, and you're spot on with that, Rob, is that we have taken these situations and we've repurposed them as a failure. If my children are bored, then I'm failing as a parent. If my children lack, I'm failing as a parent. But if we use that with a different purpose, a different culture in the home, the lack and the boredom actually may be, like you said, the catalyst for something better that the kid comes up with, the kid creates. And once they start creating, now there's a confidence built. Like, I did that. And then they want to show you. They're like, well, show me what you've been working on. And that I didn't hand them a project and go, here's the instructions, figure it out. They created everything themselves.
Right.
And I can remember sitting with my youngest, who's my daughter, and she would be on the floor, and she would have all of these toys. It would be like, little people, little characters and stuff. And she would say, come play with me. So I would go in there, and she's just kind of nonchalantly doing things. And I would say, why don't you use your toys and tell me a story?
Right.
And she would say, oh, okay. And so I'd watch her look at the cars and the people and the bicycles, and she would start putting a story together. And I don't know where that came from. I guess probably maybe reading and listening to things similar to what we're talking about today. But I would watch her do it. And I think that's helped her have a creative mind. She's done writing. She's done all kind of things. And some of them just as a good hobby. They're not even career things, and which is kind of cool.
Well, yes. And, we hear our kids say, about them being bored, and we instantly build anxiety in ourselves about it. And then that anxiety, it prompts us to be creative for them. Mm-hmm. But why can't we let them have boredom and then anxiety to prompt them be creative for themselves?
Yeah, why not?
And then they learn how to become independently creative and adapt and grow into productive adults.
Right.
I think that we are guilty of taking some of that away from them rather than fostering that as a development.
Yes. Yes.
And I want to challenge our generation and the younger generations of parents to not fear boredom.
Right. In those moments, we're definitely taking on the wrong thing. We're taking it on as if it's ours to solve. And we're not there to solve the boredom. We're there to encourage our children to do that. And maybe we've been talking a lot on this topic for the last several weeks for these live casts about some of the consequences of the parents supplemented boredom. And some of those, and I'm leaping here a little bit, so please give response if you see it differently.
Yes.
But, are some of these slow start non-starters in young adulthood, maybe with their driving licenses or maybe some of their career choices, are those at times, are those a result of a parent who did the supplementing when they should have encouraged the kid to do it for themselves?
Yes.
Is it, friends? What do y'all think?
That's how it feels to me. Have anybody out there in the audience? Like, we got quite a few people joining us on TikTok and other platforms. I'd love to know your take on this. Are we off? Are we missing it?
Yeah.
Like, seriously, have any of you out there dealt with this? Have you seen it? And this, we want to do better. We want to encourage future generations not to experience the same pitfalls that we created for ourselves.
Right.
I learned something recently, and we have created systems in our country I didn't even know existed. I knew they existed to some degree, but I didn't know the extent of just how far they go.
Okay.
And for those of you out there joining us live and whatnot, did you know that as a nation, we provide benefits for young people who are 18 and up, entitlement type benefits, subsidies to prevent them from having to have discomfort and earn for themselves?
Wait, like able-bodied?
Like, yeah, it don't matter. If you're 19, 18, 19, 20 years old, and you can work, you don't have to. Did you know that?
No.
Did you know that the common working tax-paying American is supporting young people who choose not to work?
I had no idea.
I didn't either. I had no idea. But apparently, a person can get on government assistance and food stamps or EBT or whatever it is at a particular age just by claiming a particular type of whatever. But basically, it amounts to a lack of desire to work.
I had no idea.
I didn't either.
And our system is not any better. I don't want to say developed, that we can't ask more effective questions to find out, is this child actually under some type of inability or disability, or are they just lazy? I don't understand that. Why an able-bodied person would be enabled to not work.
Yeah, there's no good answer that I can come up with, and maybe some of our guests out there in the audience can help me understand that. But I was shocked to learn this. I learned it only yesterday. I had no idea.
Yeah.
But it is apparently it's a real thing.
So some of these cultural enablings have now drifted into our government qualifications.
So, yeah, I mean, and how discouraging is that? Like, how disappointing is that to see that? And then, so if you got a young adult, college age adult, who makes the decision to apply for government assistance, they may be enrolled in a college, living in a government assisted housing,
like a dorm or something,
eating government provided food, which there's really no such thing, by the way. That just means it's provided by we the people.
That's right.
But
I love it when people go, but it's free. It's not free.
Yeah, there ain't no free.
Somebody's paying for that. But yes, so this young person that you're painting this mural of, they are 18, 19 up. They are in all of these public citizen provided things, if you will. We'll call it government if that's what they want to call it, but we all know where they get their paycheck from.
Yeah.
And even on top of that, they may just get cash on a card. Though they're being fed and housed and educated, they could even go one step further. Wow.
Yeah, it's a really shocking scenario, and
it is.
Yes, yes. One of our audience members out there says lazy, entitled, and pampered. Thank you, Cody. That is our sentiment exactly.
Yes, it is.
So the real question is, in my mind, how do we address this and how do we prevent this for the next generations? How do we coach? How do we mentor these younger parents coming up? One of the big things that my wife and I have learned with all of our parenting that we've done is that, of course, we messed up plenty with our first attempts at parenting. And now, not everybody gets 7 or 8 chances to practice and get it right or get it better. But what we've learned is we have 2 younger ones still at home. We have a 7 and a 10. And our original approach was like at around 10 or 12 years old, we were giving our kids cell phones, with limitations, but we were giving it to them.
Sure.
But with these 2, we ain't giving it to them. We are not giving these kids cell phones. We are going to stick to our guns.
Yes.
And we're going to force them to, later on, when they have the ability, they're going to earn the right, or they're going to earn the privilege of getting that extra form of communication, entertainment, and ability. That's not a right.
Correct. That is not a right. There are basic rights, like I will keep a roof over your head and clothes that fit the season of the year. That's about it.
Yes.
And food, and healthy food. So I would go back to the cell phone thing. I remember when our children, my daughter being the youngest and her older brothers, reached those ages, and you look around the parking lot and the kids are walking out of the school, they're immediately on their phones, and they're barely in double digits, 10, 11. So I'm thinking, that's insane. So, of course, and I don't fault my children, they said, can I have one?
Right.
Because they see their friends have one. And I said it to each and every one of those kids. And I said, at your stage, you're not some, participant like an athlete that's going to be staying until 5 or 6 o'clock at night.
Right.
Okay. Or something along those lines. You're not working at some part-time job somewhere where you're driving home in the dark. You're barely out of middle school or intermediate school. I said, there's nowhere you're going to be that I'm not going to be there, or I haven't left you in the hands of somebody I know. So I'm going to drop you off. I'm going to hand you over to adult professionals, and then I'm going to pick you up. That's how this is going to go for the foreseeable future. So no, a cell phone is a useless item now. We don't need it. When we need it, we'll talk about it. And I didn't make that up. I heard that from some other parents who were just a hair, like you said, they're just a season ahead of me. And I'm thinking, I'm keeping that one. That was smart. Well, and my children didn't argue much. To their credit, they would assert and ask as about every year, and they would get the same answer until the answer could be changed.
And I'm going to throw something out there that's a little bit, maybe just my opinion. So that's fine. But it really looks to me like we've already drawn the correlation of the phone being related to the decline in ambition.
Yes.
We've drawn the correlation to the phone being related to the increase in the entitlement thinking.
Yes.
The belief that somebody owes me. Not only do they owe me entertainment, but they owe me connection. They owe me compliments. They owe me likes on social media. That somebody owes me something.
Yes.
No matter what I do, no matter how I look, no matter how I behave, somebody owes me.
Right.
Right. So then we have gotten to where somebody owes me my personal development. Somebody owes me, like, it goes so far. Like, where does it end?
Right.
When do you stop the owing?
Right.
At what point does a human then become the owner of their own fate?
Right. And how do you boil that down and break that down into its most fundamental moments? Because if you're going to be an effective parent, I'm talking to young parents at this point, or grandparents, and your children are starting to have children.
Right.
Help them break it down into its most fundamental moments. When I say you could start this in the, coming out of the infant into the toddler ages, you can. There are little bitty moments. Now, they're a little less frequent and a little less impacting, but those are those small little building blocks. By the time a kid reaches, they're ambulating, they're walking, they're moving, and they're starting to form words, they can learn. And that's really when it starts. I'll say this as a fundamental question, and this is just simple science. I'm not trying to totally simplify what could be difficult situations for some of you. But if someone comes in my office as counselor or therapist, and they're telling me about some extreme situation, maybe with their children, and they're getting into this and they're getting into that, and I look at this parent and I say, just so we're clear, that doesn't happen by accident. That doesn't happen in a vacuum. That happens as a result. So close your eyes, get rid of any stimulant in the room, and just think, where do you think this started? And what we're bringing up today are some of those starting points. And, I'll give credit even to young parents. I'll give credit to them. They'll say, I believe this started when and then they'll go into some confession. And I go, thank you. What do I do now? I go, well, at the very least, stop. Stop. It's like an addict. First things first, get off the drug. Then we'll figure out how you got here and what to do about it.
So I want to draw another connection. So we talked about the decline in ambition. We talked about the increase in entitlement. We've talked about the lack of the pursuit of a purpose. Mm-hmm. And then we talked about young people, seeking government assistance because of that entitlement spirit or mentality, whatever you want to call it, mindset. But there's another thing, and we see on the rise, and it's talked about in the mainstream media and other media. It's talked about on podcasts. There are entire industry. There's a big industry built on top of this, and that is anxiety and depression.
Yeah.
Anxiety and depression. I have to believe that our increases in anxiety and depression throughout our entire society is related to our increase in technology usage. Certainly, because we are taking away our awareness of reality.
Right.
And we are increasing our solitude.
Yes.
Our real solitude. We're losing this social connection, social interaction.
Well, I'll ask this question and we'll come back to the social connectedness. When are things the most anxious in our lives? It's when we are the less equipped. I don't understand it. I haven't been through it enough. I haven't mastered portions of it to where my confidence is built. Confidence is obviously the antithesis of anxiety. So when people come in and they're worried about something, I'll ask them, say, tell me what you're worried about. And they may try to run it to what they think is some terrible conclusion. Well, if this keeps going, this is going to happen. And then I have to remind them the reason that your anxiety is amplified because you haven't been here before, or you haven't done responsible things when you've gotten here.
That's right.
And if you learn how to master certain things, like the topic of driving. Well, when did we become more confident in driving? The more we did it. And just naturally, we're going to be put in driving scenarios where we're going to be in traffic or we're going to avoid debris in the road. And if that happens and starts stacking up more and more experiences, our anxiety is a whole lot less. So are we purposely facilitating our children to avoid those learning moments?
So Cody left a comment. He says, some also may use anxiety and depression as a fallback to seek attention. Yes. And I think that's actually factual as well.
Mm-hmm.
And, there's another part of this.
Thank you, Cody.
Yeah, that was a good comment. And and it takes away from the ones that actually, it does. It takes away from the ones that actually truly do suffer with real debilitating anxiety and depression.
Right.
Boy, that's profound. That's a true statement.
That is a true statement.
So
thank you.
Yes. And something else that I've noticed is with going along with this entitlement attitude and all these kind of things, the delayed developmentally into independence, comes this sense of anger. Ooh. Have you noticed this? If you look in the media today, if you look on the internet, if you look at what happened to Charlie Kirk.
Yeah.
That was rage. That guy that killed Charlie Kirk didn't like what Charlie Kirk stood for or said.
Right.
So he felt rage inside of him. I'm speculating. I don't know what anybody feels, but his actions say that he felt enormous rage,
right,
anger, and he felt entitled to justice.
Right.
He felt as though it was incumbent upon him to take it upon himself to enact justice for himself and take another life.
Yes.
And that rage and that anger, it comes from that spirit of entitlement.
Yes.
It's directly related.
Yes. So we have three things there. We have a spirit of entitlement, which by nature then creates this rage, if you will. And from the rage, people entertain the idea of things that we've mentioned several times over the last few weeks, especially since Charlie, is now we are enacting this death penalty because of a difference. I don't understand that, not from a humanity point of view. And then at some point, we start looking for something out there to supplement for this rage inside. We're looking for an external source to make me feel better inside. I just think about that as a simple psychological science. There's nothing on the outside that's going to make me feel better on the inside.
That's right.
We are a thought. When this body goes into its rate of decline to where the body is no longer sustaining its function, my thoughts are still in God's big, great universe somewhere. They're still out there. And we see it sometimes in public forum, like the hundreds of thousands that are gathering in Charlie's name. But we also see it as those memories. When you and I sit around and we talk about people we've known from our past, I can put a person I love in this room right now, and they're not literally here because they're in my thoughts. So when that thinking becomes so, I don't know, I don't want to be dramatic here, but it becomes so damaged, so diluted, so distorted that and it's not even reasonable. How do we know that the killer's mind was in a state of unreasonable thinking? Because they had unreasonable conclusions on how to fix it. I mean, I know that's simple science, listeners, but that's it. I don't know any other way to look at it. So if we who are in reasonable society hear those unreasonable things, and it can start in the home with an unreasonable idea from one of our children. They come up with this idea, and as parents, we're sitting there going, that doesn't even make sense. Who's going to pay for that? How's that supposed to happen? So then you calmly start asking your children, well, tell us how this goes. How do you see this playing out? I don't know. It just needs to be that way. Oh, well, unless there is a process with a plan, there is no pursuit. I'm not investing in something I don't just because you feel it. No, not doing that.
You know, I heard a fascinating thing. So we did this live show yesterday on a very controversial topic. We had a transgender guest on our show, and Chuck and I both we are in opposition to that as a way of life.
Yeah.
We don't agree with that behavior. We are both conservative Christians in our beliefs. But we love the person.
Yeah.
And the person deserves respect as a human being. They deserve to know that they are worth their life. Mm-hmm. They are worth loving. They're worth being a human and being involved in this grand scheme of life.
Certainly. You know, and they're eligible for all of those things that may come.
And what is wrong is one of the things that I've noticed after the fact, after we did this interview and we released this interview out into the world, I started getting feedback. Okay. Some of this feedback, and I'm not talking about from liberals. You know, something I've noticed that we make fun of, we make light of, and then on some cases we actually praise cancel culture. Mm. And what I hear is a lot of the times on the right, and I'm not going to talk right or left necessarily, I'm going to talk about both of them. Mm-hmm. On the right, they talk about the cancel culture as the left.
Yes.
Right? But what I noticed yesterday after we released this episode, mm-hmm. there was cancel culture from both sides.
Wow.
I had people commenting on our podcast on social media in public forums and groups saying garbage, calling our guest garbage, referring to a human as less than. And that's not Christianity. That's not okay. That's not going to promote the growth of our society.
That's right.
That's not going to lead us away from this entitlement mentality. That's not going to lead us away. That's not going to bring us together.
Right.
We've really got to watch the way we treat each other.
Absolutely.
And if we want to develop and grow past these anxieties and depressions and entitlement attitudes and anger and all this stuff.
Right.
We got to learn to talk to each other in real life, not on this device, not on social media. We've got to learn to have face-to-face interactions, just like Charlie was talking about.
Yeah.
We've got to learn to have civil discourse. We have to.
That's right. And if you go back and watch that episode, I think it was a very positive conversation. We were interviewing somebody who obviously lived a lifestyle that is very foreign and ignorant to what we're accustomed to. So to their credit, to our guest's credit, we're able to ask questions from a state of ignorance. We don't understand that. Help us understand. And I thought our guest was excellent in his patience and explaining things to us and helping us understand things. And if you were listening with that type of idea, what you saw was positive exchange, not discourse. We were on a good course of understanding, because without understanding, nothing is going to be fulfilled.
That's right.
There's no way.
We got another comment from Cody. He said it's too easy to hide behind the screen with no consequences, and that's exactly part of the point that I'm bringing up, is that we got to get out from behind these screens.
That's right.
And I'll tell you this: if anybody out there in the audience wants to come in person to our studio, wants to have live interactive discourse with us, whether you like our views or disagree with us, we don't care. We will have a civil conversation with you, and we'll learn from you, and hopefully we'll let you learn from us, and we'll be a part of growth.
That's right.
We challenge anyone and everyone, no matter what side of whatever issue you might be on, whatever country you might be in. If we can understand your language, if we can make that bridge that divide, we will have a conversation with you, and we will treat you respectfully. We will treat you with the dignity that you deserve as a human being. And believe it or not, even though we might not agree with how you live, who knows, we might not understand it, we're going to love you.
That's right. Absolutely. Well, the whole purpose of the invitation is love. I guarantee you. When people talk, they come to me and maybe something's happening in their world, maybe their immediate circle, and they'll tell me, they'll go, Chuck, that is unacceptable. And I'll say, by whom? Well, no, I mean, that's not the acceptable behavior. I say, by whom? And eventually the answer is, to the person who has decided that it's unacceptable. So I get to say, so it's unacceptable for your life. Yes, good. You just made a good decision. Now, maybe it's acceptable for theirs. And then after we dialogue a little bit, I'll say, now, consequentially, are you going to let them live through the consequences of whatever decision they're making? If your child is drifting into maybe some bad behavior, are you going to educate them on the possible consequences and then let them live it? Or are you just going to cancel it? Because if you cancel it, you haven't taught your child anything.
And you didn't let them become equipped to deal with the future.
Exactly. And so some of these folks that we get the privilege of interviewing, they may live in cultures and lifestyles that I don't accept for myself, but that doesn't mean I can't learn the reason that they're trying to accept it as acceptable to them.
One of the most amazing things that I took out of that conversation yesterday with our 29-year-old guest was the true, there was such a presence of mind in that, in Lacey. That's the name that our guest goes by. And I'm going to be respectful. And I will tell you this, in my own past, in my history, I lived a life of judgmental thinking. I did it. I was horrible. When my older kids were younger, I was not a great example of what a true Christian, God-fearing man should be, or how he should act, or how he should live, how he should treat others. I lived a judgmental lifestyle. It was terrible. And the truth is, you want to hear the truth? This is crazy. The truth is, I was masking my own insecurity.
Yes.
By judging others.
Yes.
And it was hard to admit that.
Correct. And I'm in agreement, because I'm the same guy. And I'm not proud of that at all. But yes, I was masking my own insecurities.
So now I still have insecurities. Don't get me wrong. I'm not the epitome of confidence and whatever.
Right.
But with humility, I've learned that it's okay to admit that.
Yes.
And it's okay to see things with a much clearer vision. I don't have to like the lifestyle to respect the person. I don't have to like the behavior to love the person.
Right.
I don't have the right to judge the person.
Right.
I can judge the sin. I can say that what I believe to be wrong is wrong for me, but I can't judge that person.
That's right.
My Bible, the one that I believe in, and it's sitting right over there, right on that shelf.
Yeah.
It says, "Judge not, lest you be judged."
That's right.
And I have fallen short of that many times in my life. But at this point in my life, I'm doing everything I can to weed all that behavior out.
So I ask you this question, and then since Rob referenced his bound scripture over there, are we bodies with a soul, or are we a soul with a body?
Well, I'm a soul with a body.
I'm a soul with a body, and so is every person. They are souls with a body, and then souls with a mind. And when they are in more ideal harmony, then good things are going to come their way. Even if it's some environmental inflicted things, they have good ways to work their way through it because they are a soul with a body and a soul with a mind. And if we keep that in mind, then I'd like to think that is a trend toward love and away from hate, because hate is a death word. And so what happened to Charlie, and I know he's probably the most public example that we have right now, but it happens a lot, is because someone began to hate. But they didn't start their hate with him. I guarantee you that hate started long before he found Charlie's voice.
Well, the truth is you can't hate anybody else until you hate yourself.
I can't give you what I don't have.
So
that's right.
In the end, any person who possesses that amount of hate hates themselves.
That's right. I cannot have a thought or a feeling about anybody else that I haven't already had for myself. And that's a fact. So learn to love yourself, and I think your mind will be open to a lot better things for other people, including some of these teens and early 20s that are disappointing us. Why are they disappointing us? Because maybe their trend is producing a fear. Well, face the fear, be assertive, say what you see, but say it in a healthy way, and then let's see what happens, man. Yeah, and maybe they won't hear you now, but there will come a point. It's amazing how pain can facilitate listening.
Yes. And for those of you out there who are throwing around the I am Charlie Kurt hashtag, or I'm with Erica Kurt, I love that. And if you truly believe that, if you truly espouse the message that Charlie was all about, if you truly want to espouse Christian principles and tenets, the chief of them all is judge not, lest you be judged. Love your neighbor as yourself. So what's that say? You have to love yourself. That's where you got to start.
That's right.
And then you have to love everybody else.
That's right. And if you don't know how to do that, start seeking how to do that. And there's plenty of material out there. For heavens, call us. That's what we do. We coach and counsel all the time about people who are learning to love themselves globally. They may love things about themselves, but when they start to love themselves in a more global fashion, both psychologically, spiritually, physically, and all the others, I guarantee you life will be perceived much differently.
Yes.
Better.
Well, we're going to draw to a close there. We thank you guys for joining us today. Thank you for allowing us to become a part of the pursuit of your purpose. And we want you guys to know that we are talking about Gen Z. We're talking about some things that seem like frustrations and everything, but we are not sitting in a place of judgment on you as a parent. If you decide to give your kid a cell phone at 3 years old, hey, it ain't my business. That's your kid. So please don't think that anything we say is meant in a judgmental fashion towards you. You may be raising very well-adjusted, productive humans.
Yeah.
They may turn out just great.
Yeah.
But we're just challenging our experiences and hoping that we can bring a little bit of, preventative wisdom to our audience. Thank you guys for joining us. I'm Rob.
I'm Joe.
Y'all have a great day, and we'll see you next time.